The Vorthak Collective believed they had achieved the impossible. Their quantum erasure technology could selectively remove historical events from the timeline itself, not just from records, but from the very fabric of reality. They had used it to eliminate their own shameful defeats, their extinct rivals and entire civilizations that had dared to oppose them. Now they turned their attention to humanity. Dr. Elena Vasquez felt the temporal distortion ripple through the research station's hull as she worked late in the archives. The quantum historians had detected the anomaly weeks ago, subtle shifts in the historical record that shouldn't exist. Battle reports changing mid-sentence, victory dates that suddenly became defeats, entire human colonies vanishing from star charts, leaving only empty space where thriving worlds once orbited.
"They're systematically erasing us," she whispered into her comm unit, reaching her colleague Dr. James Chen aboard the deep space research vessel Remembrance. "Starting from the outer colonies, working inward. At this rate, Earth itself will
be gone within days." The Vorthak had made one critical error in their understanding of humanity. They assumed humans were like them, a species that could be simply deleted from history without consequence. They failed to grasp the fundamental truth about human civilization. It was not built on conquest or technological supremacy alone, but on stories. Elena's fingers flew across her holographic interface as she implemented the Lazarus Protocol, humanity's desperate gambit against temporal warfare. Instead of fighting the erasure, they would use humanity's greatest weapon, their irrepressible tendency to document, remember, and retell everything. Across human space, quantum historians activated emergency beacons that began broadcasting compressed data packets containing the complete story of every erased colony, every deleted battle, every vanished human achievement. But these weren't mere data transmissions. They were stories told in humanity's unique way, messy, emotional, contradictory, and utterly alive. The Vorthak's erasure technology encountered something it had never faced before, a species that refused to be forgotten, because their history lived not in official records but in billions of individual memories, songs, jokes, and legends. Every human carried fragments of their collective story, and when the quantum erasers tried to remove one thread, 10 others reinforced it. Commander Yuki Tanaka felt the change first aboard her patrol ship near the former location of New Kyoto. The world flickered back into existence not as sterile data but as living memory. She remembered her grandmother's stories of the cherry blossoms that bloomed in the colony's biodomes, remembered the recipes for fusion-cooked ramen that became a system-wide delicacy, remembered the heroic last stand of the 47th Terraforming Brigade. The Vorthak's quantum erasure field began to destabilize. Their technology was designed to edit clean, logical historical records, not to cope with a species that turned every mundane detail into legend, every tragedy into an epic, every small triumph into a saga passed down through generations. Dr. Chen watched from the Remembrance's observation deck as reality reasserted itself across human space. Deleted colonies sparkled back into existence, their lights defiant against the cosmic dark. But something else was happening, something the Vorthak hadn't anticipated. The erasure technology, overloaded by humanity's chaotic narrative structure, began feeding back into the collective's own timeline. Suddenly, Vorthak historians found their own records becoming contaminated with human storytelling conventions. Their clinical reports of galactic conquest began including details about the courage of their enemies, the personal costs of their victories, the names and dreams of individuals they had dismissed as irrelevant data points. Supreme Coordinator Veshetal of the Vorthak felt the change rippling through their collective consciousness. For the first time in their species' history, they began to experience empathy, not as weakness, but as a new form of understanding. The human stories, immune to erasure, had infected their entire historical database. The Vorthak discovered they could no longer view their conquests as simple resource acquisition. Every world they had taken had been someone's home. Every species they had erased had been someone's family, someone's lover, someone's child. The humans had done something impossible. They had made the Vorthak remember what it meant to be mortal, fallible, and beautifully imperfect. Elena received the surrender transmission 3 days later. It wasn't delivered as a standard military capitulation, but as something unprecedented in galactic history, a story. The Vorthak told of their journey from conquerors to something new, something that had learned to see the universe through human eyes. "We attempted to erase your history," the transmission read, "and instead became part of it. We are no longer the Vorthak who sought to delete you from existence. We are the Vorthak who learned that some things, hope, love, the stubborn refusal to be forgotten, are literally impossible to destroy." The quantum historians would later note that this was the first time in recorded galactic history that an advanced species had surrendered not due to military defeat, but because they had been fundamentally changed by contact with human narrative consciousness. Elena smiled as she filed her final report. Humanity had won their greatest victory not through superior technology or strategic brilliance, but by being utterly, irrepressibly human. They had turned their enemies into storytellers, their conquerors into characters in the grand, chaotic, beautiful epic of human civilization. The Vorthak had tried to erase human history, and instead had become its most passionate chroniclers, ensuring that the story of humanity, messy, contradictory, and absolutely unbreakable, would continue to spread across the galaxy, one tale at a time.